hot air balloon flying at mid-altitude crashes into power lines in Minnesota.
3 people aboard the balloon received treatment after sustaining minor injuries. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alagao Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. The Department of Justice is studying possible ways to extradite former Congressman Arnie Teves.
Multiple government agencies are gearing up for the influx of travelers during the coming long holiday.
The United Nations is set to vote on an American-led resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
The United States Justice Department sues Apple for monopolizing the smartphone market.
And Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder reprised their iconic roles in the sequel to Tim Burton's 1988 classic.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
España, Paris, France,
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea, in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila. Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Justice and other government officials had coordinated with the Timor-Leste authorities following the arrest of former Congressman Arnulfo Teves Jr. in Dili. Teves is facing numerous charges of murder, including the slay of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo and 8 others in Pamplona last March 2023. DOJ spokesperson Assistant Secretary Mico Clavano noted all possible mechanisms for the former congressman's return are being studied.
So we will have to see kung ano yung pinaka-feasible, pinaka-mabilis at pinaka-ligtas na paraan.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, previously canceled all of Teves's passports, particularly those included in the Interpol's Red Notice. In a drone footage of the NBI, Teves was arrested during his game of golf at the golf driving range in East Timor. Clavano confirmed that Teves's appeal for asylum in Timor-Leste was also junked, a reason for Teves's return to the Philippines being possible. DOJ, however, cannot confirm when Teves will be deported or extradited.
So if we choose that route, deportation, the timing will be up to them. Pero kung extradition, which will again take some time because of the requirements for extradition.
For now, there are no details from the Teves' camp in regards to his arrest.
The Philippines and the United States have jointly committed 1.15 billion pesos to combat tuberculosis as the country grapples with a significant rise in new cases. This fund will be utilized to bolster efforts in the fight against tuberculosis, including the adoption of advanced technologies for testing and providing support to survivors. Furthermore, it aims to enhance TB preventative treatment initiatives and integrate TB screening with the testing of other lung diseases, HIV, and diabetes. According to the World Health Organization's 2023 Global TB Report, an alarming statistic reveals that 106 Filipinos succumb to TB daily.
The Philippines and the United States are scheduled to embark on joint exercises dubbed Cope Thunder. The Philippine Air Force, along with the U.S. Pacific Air Force, are gearing up for this year's iteration of their annual air defense and offense drills in Luzon. Cope Thunder is aimed at improving the interoperability of the two air forces, as well as reinforcing their logistics capabilities. The said exercises will be held in northern Luzon and at Clark Air Base in Pampanga. The annual aerial drills are scheduled from April 8 to 19, 2024.
The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, has called on Metro Manila residents, particularly those in villages and condominiums, to adopt water conservation measures in response to the impacts of the El Niño phenomenon. NWRB Executive Director Ricky Agzardon has urged village leaders and condo property managers to implement proactive water-saving initiatives as dam levels continue to decline. He encouraged the use of pails and dippers for activities such as car washing, driveway cleaning, lawn watering, and recommended deferring any non-essential swimming pool maintenance tasks that involve replacing water. The NWRB has projected the water level in Angat Dam to reach 190 meters by the end of March, reaching a critical point as 180 meters or lower may cause a water shortage crisis.
Pag-asa has officially declared the commencement of the warm and dry season in the country as Amihan, or the Northeast monsoon season, has ended. In a statement, Pag-asa Administrator Nathaniel Servandos said that they expect the number of warmer and drier days will increase in the coming weeks. Pag-asa added that the effects of El Nino are also expected to bring higher temperatures and drier conditions in April until May. In a press release, Pag-asa notes that rainfall across the country will be influenced mostly by easterlies, aside from the warmer temperatures foreseen. Pag-asa advises the public to take precautionary measures to minimize heat stress and optimize the daily use of water for personal and domestic consumption.
Where are you planning to spend your holidays next weekend? NAIA, NLEX, and Philippine Ports Authority are expecting an increase in passenger influx in the coming days. Authorities from Manila International Airport are now preparing to handle travelers' surge this long holiday with their oplet Biyaheng Ayos. MIAA authorities are expecting to have more than 1 million passengers in the 4 terminals of the airport. Now, NLEX Corporation is also anticipating mass exodus and heavy traffic in the expressways as they expect to have a 10% increase of traffic volume in the multiple points of the expressway. In a statement, NLEX Corporation and General Manager Jose Luigi L. Bautista said, "We are hoping that these decongestion projects, alongside with other measures, will contribute to a more manageable traffic flow." Meanwhile, the Philippine Ports Authority calls the attention of the domestic shipping firms, saying that they need to digitize their transactions and onboard an online ticketing system to prevent long lines of passengers. The Philippine Ports Authority is expecting to have more than 2 million passengers from March 24 to 31.
Manila will lead this year's Earth Hour observance by turning off non-essential lights, including the iconic landmark Rizal Monument and the City Clock Tower. The Department of Energy and the Worldwide Fund for Nature Philippines are encouraging us to participate in the Earth Hour 2024 tomorrow with the theme Switch Off Plastic Pollution, Give an Hour for Earth. The goal of this activity is to promote the importance of sustainable living practices. Energy Secretary Rafael Lotilla says the underlying mission of this act and the call for cooperation from all of us will certainly bring a difference, no matter how small it is. Let us therefore demonstrate how purposeful behavior could achieve something great and worthy. Sydney, Australia is the pioneer of the annual symbolic light out event, and Filipinos tried to adopt it until now. In 2019, the Philippines registered a record-breaking high of 195.34 megawatts saved energy from the 1-hour duration of energy switch-off. The annual Earth Hour observance will start at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
There will be a big-time price hike on oil products by next week. The Department of Energy said that based on a 4-day trade, motorists would expect to pay 2 pesos and 20 centavos to 2 pesos and 40 centavos for gasoline per liter. Diesel per liter, on the other hand, would increase by 1 peso and 45 centavos to 1 peso and 75 centavos. Meanwhile, kerosene price per liter can increase by 1 peso and 20 centavos to 1 peso and 60 centavos. The final price adjustment is expected to be released on Monday. Coming up, waves of missile strikes claim 2 lives and injure 14 in Ukraine. Political tensions continue as 36 Chinese military aircraft surround Taiwan. And the United States Department of Justice sues Apple, citing illegal monopoly. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Jose. Mga EPIRA claimants mula sa Davao, sumisigaw ng hustisya. Ang ilan sa kanila lumutang sa responde.
Yung dapat para sa amin, ibigay na. Kasi nangihirap na kami.
Viral ngayon, butas sa sidewalk sa Malaria Road, inireklamo.
Baka mas marami pa pong na-aksidente o ma-aksidente.
Exclusive! 3 araw na selebrasyon ng 7th anniversary ng Embrace, bumuhos ang responde para sa mga kababayan nating PWD. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang responde. Mata ng mamamayan.
Let's live together. Sunday 25.
To Mata ng Agila International. At least 2 people were killed and 14 others injured as a result of a relentless onslaught in eastern Ukraine, consisting of over 60 Russian drones and 90 missile strikes. This assault led to partial blackouts and the disabling of water pumps in Kharkiv, depriving over 1 million individuals of access to electricity across the country. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reiterated his urgent plea to Western nations for increased military assistance to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities.
Unfortunately, the use of artillery at the front line by our soldiers is humiliating for Europe in the sense that Europe can provide more. And it is crucial to prove it now, because if there is enough support for Ukraine, it will show Putin's bodies that there will be enough support, even if this insane person orders the expansion of aggression to other European countries.
Meanwhile, Russia's Belgorod governor Vyacheslav Gladkov has reported 1 fatality and multiple wounded resulting from a Ukrainian attack. Despite successfully intercepting 8 of the rockets launched at the region, 3 health centers and numerous residences have sustained damage in the onslaught.
The U.S. is trying to urge Ukraine to halt attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure, including the oil refineries. U.S. authorities warn that when drone strikes fall on the oil refineries, it may risk driving up global oil prices and can provoke retaliation. Russia remains as the world's most important energy exporter, despite Western sanctions on its oil and gas sector. Washington is also concerned if Ukraine continues to hit Russian facilities, it could retaliate by lashing out at energy infrastructure relied on by the West. Ukraine steps up on their air attacks as its drone programs expand and the ground war shifts in Moscow's favor. Since 2022, there have been at least 12 attacks on major Russian refineries, according to military intelligence official logs.
EU leaders say they will quickly develop a plan to use the profits from frozen Russian central bank assets to arm Ukraine. The agreement comes as Kyiv pleads for more ammunition for its outgunned forces. Krisan Fragata has more.
More than 2 years into Moscow's war against its neighbor, Kyiv's troops are struggling to hold back the Russian army as Western deliveries of weapons have faltered. The proposal to use seized Russian assets could unlock some 3 billion euros a year for Ukraine once it is approved. The EU froze around 200 billion euros of Russian central bank assets held in the bloc as part of punishing sanctions imposed on Moscow for invading Ukraine in February 2022. The push by the EU to find more funds for Ukraine comes as a $60 billion support package from the United States remains blocked in Congress. Addressing the EU's 27 leaders via video link, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told them the shortfall in ammunition facing his troops is humiliating for Europe. EU leaders say the plan to target the interest being made by the frozen assets is legally sound, but the Kremlin warns it will use legal and other methods of retaliation to hit back. Krisan Fragata from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
European Union leaders have agreed to consider adding another member country. EU leaders say they will open talks with Bosnia on joining the bloc. Shenka Dusale reports.
The decision to consider Bosnia came Thursday during a meeting of EU's leaders in Brussels. They say negotiations will only begin in earnest once the Balkan country has passed more key reforms. Bosnia has been an official candidate for membership since 2022, but it needs to implement a string of reforms before getting the green light on progressing to the next stage. Brussels last week said the country had completed some of the steps required, but outstanding judicial and electoral reforms remain. Russia's war on Ukraine has reinvigorated the EU's drive to enlarge in Eastern and Central Europe. The drive for new members is part of an effort to push back against Russian and Chinese influence in the EU's backyard. Launching negotiations only puts Bosnia at the start of a long process of further painstaking reforms and usually lasts for many years before a country finally joins the EU. Bosnia's regional neighbors, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, and Albania, are already ahead in their efforts to join, but all remain far from membership. Shen Carisal for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The United Nations warns that after nearly a year of war, Sudan is suffering one of the worst humanitarian crises in recent history. The UN slams the international community for lack of action. Emmy Capilita Roja tells us more.
Since April of 2023, tens of thousands have died due to fighting between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his former deputy Mohamed Hamdan Daglo. The fighting also has led to acute food shortages and a looming famine. OCHA's Director of Operations and Advocacy, Edem Wosurnu, describes how Sudan is when it comes to humanitarian disasters.
Meanwhile, the conflict has driven up prices of basic commodities for a staggering 83% compared to the pre-crisis period. Mr. President, by all measures, the sheer scale of humanitarian needs, the numbers of people displaced and facing hunger, Sudan is one of the worst humanitarian disasters in recent memory.
Wosurnu says a humanitarian travesty is playing out in Sudan under a veil of international inattention and inaction. Simply put, Wosurnu says, the world is failing the people of Sudan.
WHO estimates that more than 70% of health facilities are not functional. Children who are already malnourished are at even greater risk of dying from preventable diseases. It seems utterly unfathomable that this tragedy could be allowed to happen. It keeps us all up at night and will do so for a long time.
According to the United Nations, the conflict has seen more than 8 million people displaced. In total, more than 18 million Sudanese are facing acute food insecurity, a record during harvest season, and 10 million more than at this time last year. Meanwhile, 730,000 Sudanese children are thought to suffer from severe malnutrition. UN World Food Programme's Deputy Executive Director Carl Skau says to prevent Sudan from becoming the world's largest hunger crisis, coordinated efforts and joined-up diplomacy is urgent and critical.
We are also deeply concerned that hunger will spike even higher in the weeks ahead when Sudan's lean season arrives in May. Without sustained access and resources needed to scale up our responses, there is a high risk we will see IPC 5 level or catastrophic food insecurity. If we are going to prevent Sudan from becoming the world's largest hunger crisis, coordinated efforts and joined-up diplomacy is urgent and critical. We need all parties to provide unrestricted access across borders and across conflict lines.
Emmy Capilita Roja for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has wrapped up meetings with Arab leaders and is currently in Israel. Blinken says a ceasefire deal in the Israeli-Hamas war is still possible. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Blinken spent Thursday in Cairo. There he met with government ministers from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and the Palestinian Authority. Topping the agenda, a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict.
It's getting closer. I think the gaps are narrowing, and I think an agreement is very much possible.
Blinken says they worked hard with Qatar, Egypt, and Israel to come up with what he called a strong proposal.
Hamas wouldn't accept it. They came back with other requests, other demands. The negotiators are working on that right now.
Later today, the UN Security Council will debate a U.S. resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire tied to the release of the hostages. Another topic discussed in Cairo was Israel's plan to launch a ground operation in Rafah. Blinken again warned against such action.
A major ground operation there would mean more civilian deaths. It would worsen the humanitarian crisis. There is a better way to deal with the threat, the ongoing threat posed by Hamas.
Today, Blinken will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. Meanwhile, Israel says its spy chief will be in Doha today for more truce talks with American, Egyptian, and Qatari mediators. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The United Nations Security Council is set to vote on a United States-sponsored resolution declaring an immediate and sustained ceasefire. Antony Blinken and the United States changed tunes recently, saying that an immediate and sustained ceasefire was imperative to protect civilians and enable humanitarian aid to be delivered to more than 2 million hungry Palestinians caught up in the Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza.
I just want to share with you that we have worked hard and diligently over the course of the past week with the Emiratis, with others, with Egypt, to come up with a resolution that we can support. And we do have that resolution now. We're ready to vote on it.
U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said she was optimistic that the new, tougher draft resolution would be approved. The draft being put to a vote determines the necessity of an immediate ceasefire with no direct link to the release of hostages taken during last year's Hamas attack on Israel, but it would unequivocally support diplomatic efforts to secure such a ceasefire in connection with the release of all remaining hostages. The Security Council had already adopted 2 resolutions on the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza, but none of these have called for a ceasefire. Gaza's health ministry has reported nearly 32,000 Palestinian deaths and at least 70% of the remaining population suffering from catastrophic hunger.
Since the 7th of October, my family members, over 150 of them, have been murdered by Israel's brutal assault on Gaza, either by Israeli bombardment, snipers, or the cruel and ruthless denial of humanitarian aid, with no access to clean water, with food, equitable healthcare services. Thousands more have been tormented with horrific injuries, forced starvation, trauma and displacement to evacuation camps, and catastrophic living conditions.
The humanitarian crisis in Haiti continues to worsen as criminal gangs advance through the country. A UN official says daily life has become defined by roadblocks and the sound of gunshots. Percy Parlade reports.
UN Humanitarian Coordinator Ulrika Richardson says enormous amounts of people are being displaced as gangs take over neighborhoods in the capital of Port-au-Prince. Richardson says the situation is so bad that almost half of Haiti's population needs help.
We now have a situation of actually 5.5 million of the 11.4 population is in need of some type of humanitarian assistance.
Haiti has been rocked by violence since late February. That's when the country's gangs launched a coordinated offensive, raiding a prison and releasing thousands of inmates as they demanded Prime Minister Ariel Henry resign. Henry has agreed to step down, but talks drag on to form a transitional government. The chaos has created problems for the country's healthcare system. World Health Organization Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says spiraling gang violence has created an urgent need for medical supplies.
Less than half of health facilities in Port-au-Prince
are functioning at their normal capacity. And there is a pressing need for safe blood products, anesthetics, and other essential medicines.
Ghebreyesus worries that a cholera outbreak, which had been declining, could flare up again if the crisis continues. Percival Parlade for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A dramatic sea rescue has saved 69 Rohingya refugees whose rickety boat capsized in the waters of the Indonesian coast. An Indonesian search and rescue boat aided by local fishermen brought the survivors to safety. Jessica Bautista has the details.
The skipper of the search and rescue vessel spotted dozens of Rohingya refugees Thursday drifting on the rusty hull of their overturned ship, poking out of the water. The men, women, and children had been trying to escape camps in Bangladesh filled with poverty, crime, and a lack of hope to reach the shores of Indonesia or eventually Malaysia for a better life. As the rescue boat approached them, a group of men and children stood together, water tumbling around their legs as their rescuers tied a rope to the hull to keep their dinghy close. When they reached the larger rescue ship, safe in the shade, some Rohingya broke down into tears and hugged each other, while others shivered or lay exhausted on the deck. Children sat in shocked silence, drinking water and eating biscuits. The 69 successfully reached land in Aceh Thursday afternoon, with most taken to a temporary shelter. Some were immediately taken to hospital. The condition of those who accompanied them but were swept away when the boat capsized remains unknown. Jessica Bautista for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense confirms that 36 Chinese military aircraft were sighted in Taiwanese skies in a 24-hour window. The Defense Ministry added that among the aircraft detected, 13 crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait, the waterway separating China from Taiwan. Aside from the aircraft, it also detected 6 naval ships operating around the island. The day prior, 32 aircraft, 20 fighter jets, aerial unmanned vehicles, and transport planes have also been reportedly detected by the Defense Ministry. Starting in 2016, Beijing has amped up its exertion of military pressures in Taiwan by sending in naval vessels and warplanes around the country daily after President Tsai Ing-wen, who does not recognize China's claim on Taiwan, was elected. Beijing has never renounced the use of force to bring Taiwan under China's control in an act of claiming democratic Taiwan as part of its territory.
A tunnel constructed high in the mountains of northeastern India has become the latest point of contention over an already simmering border dispute between New Delhi and Beijing. Stretching across the Himalayas, the 3,000-kilometer Sino-Indian frontier is the longest disputed border in the world, with both India and China laying claims on Arunachal Pradesh. The Sela Tunnel, inaugurated by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been hailed as an engineering marvel as it stretches around and into the Himalayas at 13,000 feet, allowing easier vehicle access and faster military deployment to the tense de facto border with China. Beijing, whose long-running dispute with New Delhi has seen the two nuclear-armed powers clash in recent years, has claimed the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, where the tunnel was constructed, as its own, even as the area has long functioned as Indian territory. Chinese officials in recent days have slammed the tunnel project and Modi's visit to the state, accusing New Delhi of taking steps to undermine peace along the border. India hit back by denouncing Beijing's absurd claims, saying the area is and will always be an integral part or inalienable part of India. The U.S. State Department also weighed in during a news conference, backing India's sovereignty over Arunachal Pradesh and voicing strong opposition to any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments.
The United States recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory, and we strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments, military or civilian, across the line of actual control.
Indian opposition leaders reprobate the arrest of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal after corruption allegations relating alcohol policy sales of the city.
30 जून तक 1 लाख केस हो जाएंगे.
His arrest in the Supreme Court and denied the allegations. Opposition leaders allege that the leader of Aam Aadmi Party or AAP's arrest is politically motivated, given India's general elections will be coming next month. In a social media post, a leader of the Nationalist Congress Party, Sharad Pawar, expressed that Kejriwal's arrest showcases the depth to which opposing party BJP will stoop for power, saying, and I quote, "It wants to remove the opposition leaders from the public by any means at the time of the elections," unquote. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a member of BJP, denied the allegations, refuting that it is merely acting against corruption.
Senegal is poised for a closely watched election this March 24th, highlighting political tensions and testing the resilience of one of West Africa's most stable democracies. This presidential election comes after a period of uncertainty fueled by Senegalese President Macky Sall's unsuccessful attempt to postpone the vote until the year's end.
En fait, les gens sont plutôt inquiets. Vu ce qui s'est passé au Sénégal, ces derniers temps, franchement, les gens sont inquiets. On n'est pas du tout tranquille. On espère vraiment que les élections se passent dans de très très bons états.
The recent release of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko from prison has reignited enthusiasm among the populace, sparking jubilant celebrations in the streets of Dakar and revitalizing interest in the electoral process.
Je n'ai jamais eu une conviction envers un politicien à part Ousmane Sonko. Vraiment, je ne sais pas de quoi je vais vous expliquer comment j'ai eu la conviction envers cette leader.
According to analysts, former Prime Minister Amadou Ba and Bassirou Diomaye Faye, supported by Sonko due to being disqualified from the ballot in January, are anticipated to emerge as leading contenders in the upcoming election. Sunday's election also signifies the country's fourth democratic transfer of power since gaining independence in 1960, a milestone that may either uphold or challenge its reputation as a beacon of stability in a region frequently marred by coups.
Australia is poised to allocate $3 billion to support the construction of nuclear-powered submarines as part of the AUKUS agreement with the United Kingdom and the United States. Senior officials from the UK, Australia, and the US visited the naval shipyard in Adelaide, Australia, where the submarines will be constructed. British Defence Minister Grant Shapps emphasized the importance of the submarine program, acknowledging its substantial cost but asserting its necessity in an increasingly turbulent global landscape. Australia aims to have 8 nuclear-powered vessels operational by the 2050s, including a mix of domestically built AUKUS-class submarines, those constructed in the UK, and Virginia-class vessels acquired from the US.
The U.S. Justice Department and 16 other state and district attorney generals filed a civil antitrust lawsuit against Apple. This for monopolization or attempted monopolization of smartphone markets. Kimi Oria has the details.
The complaint was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey. It alleges that Apple illegally maintains a monopoly over smartphones by selectively imposing contractual restrictions on and withholding critical access points from developers. This, the complaint states, is in violation of Section 2 of the Sherman Act. The Justice Department says Apple undermines apps, products, and services that would otherwise make users less reliant on the iPhone, promote interoperability, and lower costs for consumers and developers. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says consumers should not have to pay more because companies violate the antitrust laws.
Consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies break the law. We allege that Apple has employed a strategy that relies on exclusionary, anti-competitive conduct that hurts both consumers and developers. Outlined in our complaint, we allege that Apple has consolidated its monopoly power not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse.
The complaint further states that Apple exercises its monopoly power to extract more money from consumers, developers, content creators, artists, publishers, small businesses, and merchants, among others. The Justice Department says through this monopolization lawsuit, relief is sought to restore competition to the vital markets on behalf of the American public. Kimi Oria from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Hermes is being targeted in a lawsuit accusing the luxury retailer of selling its coveted Birkin handbags only to customers who have spent exorbitant amounts of money at their stores. The federal class action lawsuit, which was filed this week in San Francisco, alleges that Hermes is violating antitrust laws by making screening customers before being granted the privilege of buying a Birkin bag from their stores. Birkin handbags, which are handcrafted from leather by artisans in France, can cost tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the secondhand market, and are seen on the arms of celebrities like Jennifer Lopez, Kim Kardashian, and Cardi B. The lawsuit claims that the average customer can't just walk into a Hermes store, find a Birkin on display, and buy it. Rather, customers that are deemed worthy will be shown a Birkin in a private room. According to the lawsuit, Hermes sales associates are tasked with choosing customers who are qualified to buy Birkins. While sales associates don't receive a commission for selling Birkins, the lawsuit claims they're instructed to use the Birkin handbags as a way to coerce customers into buying other products, for which they receive a 3% commission. Hermes has not responded to a request for comment.
Reddit has priced its shares at the top of a marketed range, valuing the social media platform at $6.4 billion. It has raised $748 million as it sells 22 million shares for $34 each, making it one of the biggest initial public offerings or IPOs by a social media firm. In an unusual move, the company offered some of the shares to the platform's users, although it has not been disclosed how many took up the offer. Reddit was founded almost 20 years ago and acts as an online forum where users can discuss topics that interest them. As of the end of December 2023, it had more than 73 million users, making it one of the most popular websites in the world. The website is completely free for people to browse, post, and comment, but Reddit's road to profitability has an end in sight built around AI models. Companies like OpenAI, the developer of ChatGPT, will pay for data of those random conversations. Google is believed to have paid Reddit $60 million for the right to scan almost 2 decades of discussions to make its AI more human. Reddit has said it has agreed licensing deals worth more than $200 million over the next 2 to 3 years. The shares will start trading on the New York Stock Exchange. Up next, a hot air balloon crashes into power lines, sparking bushfires. An air ambulance tragedy in Colombia claims 4 lives. And United States ambassador hails a landmark achievement over artificial intelligence resolution. Matanang Agila International will be back after a short break.
Is Pamper Day. Pero mas enjoy ang mga Pamper Days pagkasama ang girlfriends. Carmi Martinez in the house! Umangat ka din talaga sa iba. Eto, kakaiba ang pag-shine niya dito at nasa bunutan talaga si Carmi Martin.
Ano bang ginagawa mo? Sino sinisili mo sa kabila?
For a movie, binata si Mr. Dalaga si Mrs. Di syempre may premiere night. Apektado yung mga fans ni Ate Guy. Sinabunutan ako at sinipa-sipa ako. Talagang asin na sa floor ako.
ito palang si Carmi ay talagang nanggaling din sa hirap.
Hindi naging masaya yung childhood ko. Nagtatrabaho ang papa ko. And then, at the same time, alcoholic pa siya and all the vices. Parating lasing. But my dream when I was a child was, sana pagising ko malaki na ako para matulungan ko sila.
Huwag mo sabihin wala kang love life. All throughout.
Isa lang sa showbiz.
Pati kayo nagkatuluyan.
Sa sobrang bait yata, medyo, I was very choosy. Right now, parang na-accept ko na I'm very, very happy being single. So, wag ipagpilitan. Kung single, i-accept mo and have fun.
Thanks, Carmi. Cheers to your life.
Ay, nako. Cheers to you and thank you for guesting me.
Thank you.
Let's get together. Sunday 25.
A hot air balloon flying at mid-altitude crashed into power lines in Minnesota. Medical workers rushed to the site. 3 people aboard the balloon received treatment after sustaining minor injuries. The passengers noted that they had been attempting to land the balloon in a field as strong winds blew their ride. The basket, however, became detached and hit power lines. The balloon plummeted and burst into flames on the ground.
Four people are dead after an air ambulance crashed in northwestern Colombia. The plane had been traveling between the cities of Monteria and Medellin. Kathleen Gaw has more details.
Investigators are on the scene trying to determine what went wrong. Colombian local media say the twin-engine Beech C-90 King Air aircraft had been flying to Medellin. Police spokesman Colonel Carlos Martinez says all 4 people about the aircraft perished. According to the Aviation Safety Network, the victims have been identified as the 2 pilots, a doctor and a patient. Witnesses say the aircraft had been circling the region before it went down. Martinez says the plane exploded when it hit the ground. Kathleen Ga for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The UN General Assembly adopts by consensus a resolution calling for the development of a set of international guidelines to address the risks and benefits of AI. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the adoption signals that the UN has chosen to govern artificial intelligence rather than let it govern us. Diane Rawson tells us more.
The United Nations AI resolution is co-sponsored by dozens of countries. Prepared by the United States, it is now adopted by consensus. It emphasizes that the necessity of guidelines to promote safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence systems while excluding military AI from its purview. It focuses more on the technology's positive potential and calls for special care to bridge AI and other digital divides between and within countries. It also seeks to promote, not hinder, digital transformation and equitable access to AI. This, in order to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which aim to ensure a better future for humanity by 2030, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the Assembly has spoken in one voice.
Today, all 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly have spoken in one voice and together chosen to govern artificial intelligence rather than let it govern us. The groundbreaking resolution adopted today cements global consensus for safe, secure, trustworthy AI systems that both advance sustainable development and respect fundamental freedoms.
Thomas-Greenfield adds that the resolution emphasizes that no one should use AI to undermine peace nor repress human rights. Diane May Rosson for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up. Dodgers axed Shohei Ohtani's interpreter after theft allegations. France reports over 300 cases of sexual abuse or cover-ups of sexual violence in sports. And Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder returned for their iconic roles in Beetlejuice 2. Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Stirring in the pot is a relatively new hot business in town that is growing fast and sizzles its way to your palate. Meet the NT Group, who brings under its lead restaurant brands like Lan Hot Pot, TFF, Golden Noodle House, and Namsan Korean Barbecue. Take a food crawl with us as we speak with Chi Ling Lee, marketing head of the NT Group, as they exponentially open for business.
To make an authentic restaurant, we need to have something that is originally from our idea. But then, of course, part of it, we need to get inspired from the local dishes.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sunday 25.
Representatives of Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani accused the interpreter of engaging in massive theft of the ball players' funds to place bets for an alleged bookmaker. The Internal Revenue Service confirmed that Ipe Mizuhara and Matthew Boyer are the alleged illegal bookmakers under investigation through the Los Angeles field office. Dodgers fired Mizuhara for his alleged ties to an illegal bookmaker and debts well over $1 million. News was all over the media outlets hours after Ohtani's anticipated debut with the Dodgers in South Korea, while Mizuhara was in the Los Angeles dugout during its season-opening win over San Diego. The pair seemed to be operating business through the end of the game, and Mizuhara was not with the team. The Dodgers said that they were aware of media reports and are gathering information, and said the team can confirm that interpreter Ipe Mizuhara has been terminated. The team has no further comment at this time. Sports gambling is illegal in California, while 38 other states, including the District of Columbia, is allowing some forms of it.
Amateur and avid runners, learning how to overcome physical and mental challenges is helpful both for completing races and for dealing with the ups and downs of everyday life. In Century City, California, Eva Basalyajes speaks with marathon participants about the preparations and motivations behind their reason for running.
In any race, mental hurdles are just as severe as physical ones. So we asked marathoners about their physical training and how they overcame mental excuses to reach their goal.
Doing about 4 runs a week, ramping up to, I did a couple of 20-milers within the past month, and then today with the 26.
Waking up early in the morning to get your long distance runs in, and just being consistent enough to do it when you're not doing it with your group, just getting like the little miles in, just being consistent on the daily.
Sleep, nutrition are important too, but just getting that proper training in, making sure you get the miles in, the long runs.
A training plan, I had one hung to my fridge, and I would mark it off each week as I ran my runs, and a good support team also.
A lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of miles.
just dedication. I think that's what kept me going the entire time, was knowing that I just wanted to finish.
You're never going to have the time that you want, but you got to free up your schedule to do things, to overcome your challenges. So make time to do things that you want to do, and you'll become great.
There are the little things. When you keep doing the little things progressive and continuously, that's gonna be that's all you need to be right here and to finish and to cross the line.
You know, there are a lot of people who wish they could do it, but they can't. And I'm just thankful to God that I can do this for those who cannot, and also for my physical and mental health.
I'm doing it for the Peyton project. Peyton has a muscular disease and he's in a wheelchair, so we did this for him. And it's super cool to do a marathon for something other than yourself.
It took me 15 years to run my first marathon. So if I can do it, and you don't do it in your first year of running, don't worry. You got 14 more to think about it.
The finish line is not really the finish, it's just the start. You just gotta keep going, and it's kind of like life. My last marathon, I had to walk the last 6 miles. This is my second one. I had to walk the last 3, but I beat it by 45 minutes, and you know, it's all about forward progress.
So when does a race begin? For some, it's when they cross a physical stripe on the ground. For others, it's when they make up their mind to start running. Reporting from Century City, California, Eva Basayahe from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
More than 300 French coaches, teachers, and sports officials have been accused of sexual abuse or of covering up such offenses in 2023. France launched a nationwide effort to uncover and combat sexual violence in sports 4 years ago, when 10-time French skating champion Sarah Abitbol published that she was raped as a teen athlete by her coach. Since 2020, complaints have been filed against 1,284 coaches, teachers, and sports officials. Of these reports, 186 of them now face criminal proceedings, and 624 have been sanctioned with temporary or permanent bans. Sports Minister Amélie Oudéa-Castéra presented the latest annual report on the nationwide investigation at a news conference, saying that at least 81% of complainants were women and girls. The alleged abuse included sexual assault, harassment, or other violence reaching across the country, with accusations spanning 45 different sports federations.
Over 1,000 Jewish creatives and professionals have now denounced Jewish filmmaker Jonathan Glazer's speech after receiving an Oscar for his Holocaust drama Zone of Interest for Best International Feature. TJ Mendoza has the scoop.
Jewish actors and other creatives in Hollywood condemned director Jonathan Glazer's Oscars speech in an open letter that has collected hundreds of signatures. Slamming the director included the likes of Deborah Messing, Jennifer Jason Leigh, director Eli Roth, creators, showrunners, producers, and about 500 more individuals. The group's statement says, "We refute our Jewishness being hijacked for the purpose of drawing a moral equivalence between a Nazi regime that sought to exterminate a race of people and an Israeli nation that seek to avert its own extermination." On March 10, as Glazer accepted his Oscar trophy with producer James Wilson and financier Len Blavatnik standing behind him. Glazer said, "Our choice." Jewish actors and other.
In other news, HBO has dropped 2 trailers for the second season of House of the Dragon, set to put screens ablaze in June. The American television network is imploring audiences to pick sides as Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, representing the Blacks, and Queen Alicent Hightower, representing the Greens, both get unique trailers. The trailers tease an all-out war between kin as summarized by a line from Queen Rhaenyra saying, quote, "I mean to fight this war and win it," unquote. Season 1 left the audiences in a cliffhanger as Prince Aemon, mounted on Vhagar, chomps down Prince Lucerys and his dragon Arrax in a fight above the bay in Storm's End. Fire is in Rhaenyra's eyes as she received the news of her son's violent death, officially marking the commencement of the Dance of the Dragons, the fiery and bloody civil war between the heirs of the dragon. Author of the book George R.R. Martin is also the executive producer and co-creator of the show alongside Ryan Condal.
Beetlejuice comes back to haunt theaters after 36 years. Gerald Blanco has the scoop.
Warner Brothers has released the trailer of Beetlejuice 2, a follow-up to Tim Burton's 1988 cult classic horror comedy, with Hollywood stars Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder coming back to revive iconic roles. Keaton is returning to reprise his role as Beetlejuice, the ghoulish yet cartoony character from the Netherworld, alongside Winona Ryder coming back to play Lydia Deetz. Rounding out the family, Jenna Ortega is cast to play newcomer Astrid Deetz, with Monica Bellucci playing Beetlejuice's wife and Willem Dafoe starring as the undead detective who used to be a B-movie action star. The trailer starts with an intriguing chorale version of Day-O by Harry Belafonte as Astrid Deetz unveils the diorama of Winter River Village in the attic, and Keaton as Beetlejuice materializes above it in front of Ryder playing Lydia. The original Beetlejuice follows the story of the Deetz as the Maitlands contact the rambunctious Beetlejuice to drive the newly moved-in family away from their home. Burton announced on social media last November that he had finished filming the sequel after a months-long delay due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. Beetlejuice 2 is set to materialize to theaters on September 2024. Gerald Blanco for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Well, that was from our childhood, so I don't expect you to be able to relate.
It's a classic, so I've seen it.
Yes. And to end the week, here's a quote by Michael Eugene Archer, better known by his stage name D'Angelo. You have to know the forces that are against you and that are trying to break you down. It just takes one little snowflake to start a snowball to go down the hill.
I think we can also relate that to accepting our flaws and our fears, because once we do that, then we can anticipate when something comes that is unexpected, we'll know what to do.
And first step really is acknowledgement before you can actually do something about it.
As they say, accountability, right?
Exactly. And if you're still on the road right now, please tune in to Agila FM 95.5.
You can also catch the latest updates on our social media channels. Happy weekend. I am Gianna Llanes.
Happy weekend. I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.